Nice and loose and easy. But hey, that's how we're going to begin.
Ooh.
Hey, everybody, this is Perch. I'm here with great Eric Palicki and Joe Corallo. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm really glad you could spend some time with us, and we got so many things to talk about. It's been a hell of a week.
It surely has.
Where'd you go with it?
What happened this week? That was I guess the IDW going to Penguin Random House. That's pretty big. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Joe mentions to me Nick Cage says he's continuing to do movies, so that's something we can look forward to.
Yeah. He said he'll never retire.
As long as he owes money to the Russian mob or whatever, he's not going to retire.
But what a week that we get the 1-2 punch of Norm Macdonald dies, followed immediately by Nick Cage being like, "You'll never be rid of me."
That is a painful pill to swallow. But anyway, thanks for coming on, and we're just gonna have a good time. It's Friday, and we deserve a drink and all the rest. So, So I always, it's welcome to the 25-year anniversary of Heroes Reborn. So
wow,
yeah,
this is I wasn't even thinking of that, but
isn't that exciting? Everybody always goes to Cap's chest here, but they forget the Enchantress's legs.
Yeah, those were oof. Those are some legs.
Eric, you remember the great moment of Heroes Reborn, and
yeah, I mean, this was the tail end of my first foray into comics as a fan. Right, I started reading right around 91, 92, so just before everyone departed for Image. And then this kind of bookended that, because this was about the time that I just gave up and decided that I had better things to do with my life than read comics.
Oh God!
Wow,
that feels like the quote that should go on the omnibus of this collection right there.
Yeah, no, a lot of people who are like 40-something now decided to stop reading comics around then because they realize girls are a thing.
Yeah, that was a big part of it, and they surprisingly don't look like the Enchantress there, or they also don't usually look like Cap.
No,
really neither of these things. I would have loved to have been the editor, or when I see this page, I mean, it's Rob, and Rob certainly has his style and everything else, but I mean, that was a hell of a thing. Like when I got these pages in, I don't know, if I was a colorist on this, I would have been, anyway, what can you do?
I mean, the backgrounds are something to behold. And
that's true. He put a lot of effort into that. It was just, yeah. He put the focus on the picture.
I mean, I have to assume that this was just, from an editorial standpoint, this was just make sure the trains are running on time, right? We're not worried about the quality of anything, because Rob Liefeld's like a Fast and the Furious movie, right? It doesn't matter what the critics say; they're still gonna sell a baseline number of copies.
I also love that idea of we just got to keep the trains running on time. Who can we get with a track record of getting us comics on time? I know those Image guys.
Yeah. That was a bold choice. But it's at 25 years. It feels like forever ago, which like the Enchantress's legs. But if you're joining us now, of course, like you said, Joe Corallo, Eric Palicki, you've got a bunch of hello, and you, Joe, you're wrapping up Vexstar.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, you have a bunch of books out right now.
I have a medium number of books out right now. We have
we're no Pat Shans over here.
No, we are definitely not Pat. But I see you've got maybe someday on the image on the screen there, and that's an anthology that I produced through A Wave Blue World, co-edited, and it came out last year and is currently nominated for a Ringo Award for Best Anthology.
That's right.
And then in addition to that, in a couple of weeks, Joe and I will have. Are we talking about this yet? Are we talking about Deadbeats?
Yeah, why not? It's already done.
It's done. It's coming out eventually.
Yeah, it's been printed. We heard.
I hear that, but so it shows up as the solicitations for next week. Is it next week that it's coming out?
I think it's going to be slightly delayed because the printer sent the wrong copies to the wrong places.
Oh, so, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it shouldn't be that bad, or it will. Who knows? But no, it shouldn't be that bad.
Well, I when you see the hey, next week Deadbeats 2 coming out, we can just anyway.
I mean, it might be, and it's certainly available digitally and all that. There just might be a slight delay, but I think some stores are going to. You know how these things work, but I feel like this is the case with every indie book. When you're dealing with Diamond, a lot of times it's like, oh, this book comes out next week or 2 or 3 weeks from now, depending. So.
And I'm sure segueing from one distributor monopoly to another is going to solve all of our problems.
Absolutely.
But that's a conversation for later. And then my third book that I have coming out right now is Blacksmith, which is an Ahoy Comics miniseries, 5 issues. Issue 3 just landed on Wednesday. Werewolf private detective has to go back to the supernatural underground that she abandoned years before to find 30 stolen bullets that may or may not have been made from the money paid to Judas for betraying Jesus. And there's all kinds of crazy monsters, and it's an Ahoy book, so it's a little bit funny. And, people seem to be really gravitating and liking it. So hopefully we can do more.
Well, congratulations on all the books coming out. We definitely want to hear about those experiences. Somebody just mentioned this in the chat, and it's true. This is kind of a breaking story, more or less. It's Marvel just announced they pulled their action lineup from IDW, and they're not going to be publishing those comics through them anymore. I want to see if that's been kind of a key part of some of IDW's licenses. What do you think of that?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, no, that's big news. It was stupid of them to license it to another comic publisher in the first place. So it sounds like someone was like, idiots. What are you doing? It sounds like Disney were like, you're doing what? No.
It was a surprising choice at the time, especially since Disney published. But Disney Publishing is getting more involved in Marvel now. And this is I have to imagine the Star Wars line is going to sunset there as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's no way you would just be like, oh, well, let's bring the Marvel properties back, but let's keep Star Wars. Yeah, no, that's absolutely not going to happen. But yeah, that's big. I thought they had like editors whose jobs were specifically working on those titles too.
Yeah, they've been hiring up in that area. So I'm curious what this does. I think this is definitely potential. And this is on the same day IDW announces they're leaving Diamond to go Penguin Random House. So anyway.
Wow.
Crazy afternoon. There we go. I hope everyone's having a good drink. I am. I don't know. Joe, what do you got there?
Peach for Loco.
All right. Sticking with glass there. Well, Eric, you being the first time in the show, you may not know this. So we always get into, as a key kind of topic here. Want to get your take on this. So with the shift in Biden's poll numbers, how will this impact the midterms? And will the abortion laws in Texas shift that voter perception? Obviously, obviously something we talk about every week.
Oh yeah, no. I'll just start before Eric goes in. I think it's important to keep in mind that in politics, a week is like 1,000 years, so it's really not possible to really extrapolate out all the way to something like the midterms. But I'll stop now and let Eric go.
Yeah, Eric.
Right. I think, frankly, what I think is that Rob Liefeld has a poor command of anatomy, and
well done.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. So I apologize. We did this to Jeff Thorne at one point, and he no-sold the joke and then just immediately goes right into answering it as if it was a legit. I love it. Very, very nice. I have had peanut butter whiskey, by the way. It's very good. So, All right. Well, enough of that. The cool part is we have the first time we've had on this show an actual person who was in the Hellfire Gala.
Oh, that's right.
So tell us about this real quick. So this is you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's me hanging out at the Hellfire Gala with my sister. For those that don't know, my sister, in addition to co-writing No Angel with me, she dabbles a bit in acting, and including she played Bobby Morse, Mockingbird on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a season and a half.
Yeah.
And so she got an invite to a virtual invite to be in the Hellfire Gala, and was kind enough to invite me as her plus one.
I just have to ask, and nothing, this is not meant to bag on the artist, but she's taller than this, isn't she?
Yes, we are. I am about 6'5" inches tall, and she and I are exactly the same height.
Yeah.
All of her bios online will tell you she's 5'11", because being 6 foot tall as an actress is a kiss of death. But in reality, she's about 6 feet tall. And what's funny, and I've told this to Joe in the past, is that the issue we appeared in was X-Corp. And that's written by Teenie Howard, who is another very tall woman. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that had Teenie known about this, she would have been a little upset that they drew my sister Adrienne so short.
Fair enough. A lot of people, congratulations. And how was it? What was it like being drawn into a comic this way? I mean, what is that experience? Is that just odd, or?
It was odd. It was odd. And also the camera adds 15 pounds is very true here. But it was really a cool experience, and it was cool because I didn't know that it was coming out the week that it was that it did, and seeing people tag me on Twitter with "Hey, is this you?" was kind of flattering too. That people recognized that I was there and that I was in the book. I had once done a little bit of work for Marvel, and my glorious return to the pages of Marvel Comics. This is not what I expected that to be, but I'll take it.
Did they get your permission? Did they write you saying, "Hey, we're going to put you in this thing," or is it just a surprise? Or
yeah, no, they wrote, and I had to sign, a couple of affidavits saying that I wouldn't spill the beans ahead of time, and that I wouldn't, I wouldn't go on a YouTube or a live chat and complain about the way I was drawn or anything. So we're fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I won't say the other things I was going to say. Perfect.
No, but it was a really cool, very simple experience. I sent them a couple of, they asked me what I wanted to wear, and I don't, as a matter of principle, wear ties. So they asked and didn't put me in a tie, which was kind of a cool thing. So,
yeah. I mean, no fancy suit. I mean,
yeah, no, I would have gone fancier than this. I could have gone with the weird, like, Elon Musk space priest
there you go
thing, but yeah, no tie was my one request, and they
not like a Bjork Swan suit.
I mean, I would have been fine with that.
No, like Tax the Rich spray painted on your back or something,
right? Or right. I don't even care. Whatever the hell Melania had on her jacket.
Do I? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
it feels like 50 years ago. Well, cool. So it's very curious. All right, I won't have you violate any of your NDA then.
No, it's
more questions.
No, I mean, I sent them a few reference photos, and this is the end result, and it's a very cool experience, and
cool.
I can't really say much more than that, other than, hopefully this is not my last time in the pages of a Marvel comic.
Well, there's Hellfire Gala #2 that we'll get next year, maybe. So,
Yeah.
can go back.
I hope not.
Well, tell us outside of it. You mentioned some of your books earlier. What kind of, for people who are kind of new to you, is there a? I don't want to typecast you with a certain style, but where's your people who are wanting to know your work? Is it more horror based, more sci-fi, all of the above? Like how do we?
I am a big fan of genre fiction, and I tend to, and I like happy endings. So in the storytelling sense, not in the any other sense. So I mean, I guess if you're a fan of, my big influences: Veronica Mars, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Star Wars. If you like those three things, then you're going to find something to like in my work. I'm a big fan of the horror tropes, but I don't necessarily like the scary parts of horror, if that makes sense. Okay. So things like Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer are good examples. Those aren't really horror stories, but they have monsters in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff I write.
So horror, but not scary. So basically U.S. politics.
Oh, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm a white man, so it's not as scary as it could be for some, but
it's horror. I will just go with that, but very cool. And a lot of your work, I grabbed this from Comixology, but there's a lot of your stuff that people can get their hands on relatively quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of work out there. I'm especially proud of the Blacksmith, which is ongoing now. Mm-hmm. Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, which is a collaboration with the same artist that I'm working with on Blacksmith, Wendell Cavalcanti, is a kind of a cool modern set Western by way of H.P. Lovecraft mashup. The anthologies, both as a writer and an editor, some of my best work has been in short fiction, I tend to think. So, I definitely recommend Deadbeats and All We Ever Wanted, as well as Maybe Someday, since it's nominated for an award.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, look at Joe's got it right there. You mentioned some of your inspiration with some of the Whedon properties, but your stuff doesn't sound like Whedon. I mean, when you read your comic, it reads nothing like Whedon's dialogue.
No, well, that's good. I don't want to be, I don't want to be too Whedon-y.
No, I wouldn't make that comparison. But I mean, from a reader standpoint, I think Whedon inspired a lot of people with all the work that he put out during that kind of time period. But your work definitely sounds, I don't know, unique. It doesn't sound like a clone of something he has done.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think structurally is where like his stuff comes in. His use of genre to tell important stories about things, to tell socially relevant stories, and fake ass feminism or whatever is something that I like to. No, not my work.
Fair enough.
But trying to use genre fiction as a way to convey important stories and elevate genre fiction in that way is something I think that at least superficially we have in common. Whether that comes out or not is up to the reader. But I have a lot of really problematic white male influences in my comics reading history. A year and a half ago, I would have told you that my biggest writing influence in comics was Warren Ellis, and so that's embarrassing.
That's an interesting comment because I think Ellis obviously produced a ton of material, and whether people want to admit it or not, I mean, he's influenced a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people coming up and writing. I think he'd be influenced by his writing and not be influenced by what he was doing on message boards and stuff.
I would like to believe that. You're right. I would like to believe that his writing influenced me, but his cult of personality did not.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's fair. That's fair. And it's also, I think, as a writer, it would be disingenuous to deny that the decades I spent reading his work didn't,
Sure.
rub off on me as a writer.
It would be exhausting, I think, to keep up with it because, I mean, as time goes on, lots of people get exposed in different ways. I mean, Neil Gaiman is back to being, I think, nobody's complaining about him, but there was a period for a while where he had some problematic things going on and people were kind of like, I don't know. And then it seemed to go away and we're back to people just enjoying it. But it feels like that goes around for a lot of people. And you have to, when people write pretty amazing things and get a lot of them into the world, it's going to influence people. And that's separate from what people are doing in their spare time.
Sure. And I think, Neil has some stories that will raise eyebrows, but people tend to forget that a writer is not always their characters. And I think and that's important to know, that just because, Ed Brubaker or any of 100 other Captain America writers wrote the hell out of the Red Skull doesn't mean that they're,
of course. Yeah.
That they're Nazis or whatever. That's, I think, a really extreme example, but
no, but unfortunately, you see that stuff brought up, and it's, Stephen King is not a mass murderer, as it turns out.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Then again, we may find. Clive Barker. Anyway, we can go on, but
right. But absolutely.
The important question is, what is your position on Arby's? Do you have one?
So, I don't ever bring this up unless I'm asked, because I'm not one of those kind of vegans. Oh, but no. I am but I really, really, really love Arby's curly fries.
Okay. Whenever I bring this up, people always mention but the curly fries are great. The milkshakes are great. They go to whatever links to not talk about the actual burger. Which to me is
the roast beef. It's about the roast beef sandwich, right? That's the whole thing with Arby's.
The roast beef sandwich, yeah.
So I do. I when I was in college, there was an Arby's right across the street from campus, and they accepted our meal cards, and I ate Arby's twice a day.
And you survived.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for Jeffrey there, and I didn't see him. At the gala. So
Jeff, I'm glad that Jeff got here because we haven't hit the Dynamite covers yet. I know that's his favorite part. So
sure
to get there. Well, Steve, but you mentioned with your sister, so we might as well say it. So Wonder Woman or Mockingbird? What do you think? Where?
I think she was a phenomenal Mockingbird, and I think she did a lot of work to rescue a really, 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 really bad Wonder Woman pilot script.
I would agree. Yeah, I wish they would have done more of that, but she worked very hard in that pilot. Much harder than the script.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think she would probably agree with me were she here that pilot not going ended up being a boon for her career.
Yeah, well, she got Mockingbird fairly quickly after that.
Yes, and then
the Orville, and there's something else she got. Is there some movie that seemed to be I'm forgetting what? There's a breakout film for her.
Oh yeah, she kicked the shit out of John Wick.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there you go.
And then also, got to hang out with Bruce Willis. While we're on the topic of actors who are never ever going to retire, she got to hang out with Bruce Willis in G.I. Joe, and she almost made out with Chris Hemsworth in the remake of Red Dawn. Yeah. So she's had a kind of a cool film career on top of what she's done on TV.
And went with you to the Hellfire Gala, so you can't complain about that.
Did she get you a Bruce Willis autograph?
No, she did not get me a Bruce Willis autograph.
Because I have a Bruce Willis autograph.
Oh, Joe. Always one up at everything. Well, It was. I worked kind of hard to find. I mean, I wanted to get some kind of side. I was hoping to get something in the same pose. We could get a nice side by side. But the Wonder Woman images they have up are that was difficult to go through to get a good pose.
Yeah, that costume, that promotional photo that they released of her in the pleather pants and the high heels was, I think, did more to Deep Six that pilot and that series than anything else. And that costume never actually shows up in the pilot. For all of the hullabaloo that was raised over that costume, it never actually made it on screen. It was just something they showed off in the promotional photos.
It was almost our Wonder Woman, so there you have it. So close. But I did it. She did a good job with that Mockingbird role, and it was anyway. I put that out there. So we're getting into some comics. I'm curious to get your take on. We go a little faster through these because there's just so much. And this week is kind of Joe's nightmare. I think it was 100+ comics this week.
Oh my God!
But September. I mean, as somebody who's written a lot for comics, isn't it? Do you find it peculiar that DC is shipping out more comics than Marvel this month?
That's weird.
I mean, is it striking to you? I mean, we've got DC, Marvel, and I ask the guests always, but you got Image and Marvel and DC all up there with more than 60 comics in a single month. That how as somebody who's created a lot of indie comics and everything else, how difficult is it to stand out when you got this kind of picture?
It's definitely difficult. I was on Comixology doing my shopping this week, and I noticed there were something like 11 Batman titles just this week.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And I mean, some of that is because of how Comixology sorts things. Some of it is reprints or trades that are Batman branded. But I just couldn't believe it that of the however many 17 books that DC was putting out this week, it was all it was like almost all of it was Batman.
Well, I mean, and Jeff's in the chat here, and I mean, I believe his book turns into Batman just next week. So it was Green Lantern, it's just going to become Batman. So that's what they're.
I mean, give Batman any color ring, and that book will double in sales.
Yeah.
Here you go, Batman Emerald Knights. Done.
See?
Do it.
There you go, Jeff. Take the easy money. It's it's a lot of money. There's Deadbeats too, which apparently is not coming out next week, but there you have it. And
it might be. Who knows?
We'll find out. And Heavy Metal's got. I mean, Heavy Metal, of course. I don't know if you followed this, Eric, but Heavy Metal certainly had the controversy. They're removing kind of the female form from all their books, as you can tell here. It's a terrifying day of just complete closed characters.
I cannot believe that they are putting a little broccoli on the cover of their next book. That does not strike me as a Heavy Metal book at all. No, it's a surprising turn for them. I mean, once upon a time they had edgy stuff, and now it's back to school. It's a dramatic turn.
How come Cookie gets top billing?
Racism.
Well,
yeah,
this is just awful. But no offense if Bog McCann's in the chat. We love Cookie and Broccoli. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, that's true. I shouldn't. Bob's a wonderful person.
Sure.
But the Cookie's always just getting top billing.
Is that the one that they got like George Romero's like son to write? The Cold Dead War, not the Cookie and Broccoli.
I would love to see Cookie and Broccoli by George Romero's son.
Yes.
That was good. No, Cold Dead War is by Romero's son, and apparently a girl humps a bomb.
And also, they're certainly not sponsored by a bra manufacturer.
No, and there's no Arby's to be seen.
Also, it's an interesting outfit choice. It looks like she's got heels.
How's she gonna walk?
She's got heels. She's got that like revealing top, and then I can't tell. I'm zooming in. I can't tell if we can see a strap.
There is a strap
by your waist. Okay, because that's
it's
really
not obscene. Come on, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't sell that to kids.
You can't drop out of a plane like that.
I'm glad she's wearing a flight helmet to protect her head.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it's
where the injuries are.
those heels are not going to stay on if she's being dropped from a plane. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, we don't know that.
I would say the same also about the top. I mean, it's already like halfway up. It's just gonna keep migrating.
Well, that's why she's leaning her chin down. The chin's going to hold it in place. She's going to kind of pin it there, and it will be fine. Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, it's all good. As we all know, American comics are certainly getting rid of all this stuff. But
it's true.
Yeah. So DC, like you mentioned, next week got a bunch of things. Wonder Girl makes its appearance again. About half of those books are Batman related in one form or another. So that's great. Any of these, as we go through these, Eric, any of these you're reading or want to point out to people, just let us know. If it's always tough.
Yeah, I mean, I read more from DC than I think I ever have, both since I was a kid and in the modern era. I think they're doing a whole lot of good things. I can't speak for whatever's going on behind the scenes, but obviously, because he may be listening still, Jeff's Green Lantern work is great. The Tom Taylor Nightwing and Son of Kal-El book are both two of my make the top of my book.
Mm-hmm. I like how you prefaced with this. If Jeff is still listening, Green Lantern is great. I mean,
it's great regardless. It's
I enjoy it. I he's doing a sci-fi story, and I very much enjoy. Like it may or may not be for everybody, but it's like you don't pick up that book, open it up, and they're like having lunch.
Sure. And friend of the Joe and Eric, Ryan Cady did the annual the other week. I still have to read that, but I'm gonna pick that up.
It's still in my list. And then I'm very curious about the return of Fables, especially because again, friend of mine, I believe Brian Level is drawing Batman versus Bigby.
Oh wow! I didn't realize it was Brian Level.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that as well. I like that world, so I'm glad they're going back and doing. I think there's a lot of potential to keep mining that world, and I'm glad that the whatever controversies are sitting in the background seem to get. We're going to focus on the comic, and that's always happy for me to get on that. Yes, Joel Jones is off the book at this point on art. I think still writing, but not on art for Wonder Girl.
Well, that's the nail in the coffin on that book, huh?
It won't help. I mean.
Well, it seems like they're just pulling out. Like they were hoping for that pilot to get picked up. It didn't, and then it seems like after that they've kind of like stopped talking about it.
I mean, I assume I don't want to talk out of school because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I also wonder how much of all of that is banked material from the 5G.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's this book, Katrina, obviously talking about the New Orleans disaster from several years ago. That's what this comic is about. The water has washed away her clothes. You can see it kind of around her feet. That's what's happening here.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this is the same cover. Like if you just this is one of those instances where if the cover gets warm enough, her clothes disappear.
That would be clever. I absolutely too soon. Thanks, Mumbles. Yeah, no, I mean they hypercolor, right? You could just put your hand on the cover and then the clothes slowly disappear, or some kind of mechanism where you could turn it upside down and the clothes could float away. That's why didn't Marvel do that gimmick in the 90s? Come on.
And Ablaze, another friend of the Joe and Eric, Kevin Kettner's the editor on Space Pirate Captain Harlock.
Excellent.
I read the first issue; is pretty good. I have the second. I still got to read that, but apparently 4 is already coming out. So hey,
I mean, this list is what it is. I mean, I see Crash and Troy number 3 on this list, and we can talk about that when we get down to Action Lab.
Yeah. How are you feeling about it? I always love having kind of serious comic discussions while everybody has to awkwardly stare at a butt on a cover here.
Yeah.
What was your take on all the Action Lab commentary? Or do you have a feeling on that?
I have a lot of conflicting emotions about it. I think it is. I was given a piece of advice when I first started working in comics by someone who has issues, and this person who gave me this advice has serious issues with Swamp Thing, apparently. But the advice was sometimes it's okay to take a bad contract if it means that having a book out in the world will pay dividends down the line. And it absolutely feels like some of these Action Lab creators took a bad contract. And I feel like the very least that Action Lab could do would be honor that contract in so much as they could put a... Can we swear here?
Oh, fucking yes, we can.
Okay,
yeah,
the very least that Action Lab could do would be to put a fucking book out.
Sure.
And, I say that because Jared and Kyler, who are the creative force behind Crash and Troy specifically, are both good friends of mine in the industry. And, the way that they've been treated in this specific instance is pretty shitty.
Yeah.
That said, the bad contract they signed is kind of putting them in a place where, I hope that it can be resolved in a way where they either get the rights back or, again, the fucking book comes out.
Yeah. And Jared and Kyler both have work featured in Dead's Beats 2 London Calling.
Oh, there you go. That's
yeah.
You got a good cast of people on that. You a really large group for this second anthology. You got a really nice assortment of people.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it was really great getting like Nancy Collins, Bill Loebs, Ron Mars, Jamal Eichel. Like we got a lot of great people involved in that. We did in the first one, but I think we really got some more heavy hitters in this one, and really looking forward to getting that out there.
How was as we get to this disturbing cover? To this question, do you think 1961 to 92? That's a hell of a range, though.
I feel like there's a lot to this. Like we've talked about this a little bit, Perch, where there's like the Silver Age can really be broken up into like 2 or 3 parts, and then the Bronze Age, like same kind of thing, and you can keep kind of fracturing things out. I would extend it probably. I'd probably say up until Heroes Reborn, it's pretty great, and we've never recovered fully from Heroes Reborn.
25 years ago today.
And it's interesting. That seems like that's a big range, right? 61 to 92 is what, 31 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But 92 to now is 29 years.
Yeah.
Oof.
And if you want to compare like those two windows, I think the metric is very strange. Like it's a very difficult metric because the last, I don't know, there's a big chunk of that time where we were in a golden age of comics in the last, the mid 2000s to now, where we got things like, the Planetary and the Authority, and Brubaker's run on Captain America, and Wade's run on Fantastic Four, and that stuff is brilliant. But how do you compare that to the Lee Kirby Fantastic Four, which is also brilliant, but also very much a product of its time, or the Claremont run on X-Men, which is brilliant, but very different kind of comics than what we see today.
Sure.
It was a very different time. It is kind of I'm going to be haunted by this for the rest of the night. Just it's almost the same time period. The 61 to 92 and the 92 to today. I mean, those are almost two equivalent eras of time, and I think about those eras very, very differently. So that's pretty.
Oh yeah. No, it's
pretty nuts.
Well, I think part of the problem is it's just these characters and concepts are old and tired. You know, like when you got to, a lot of the 60s was really setting things up, and first appearances, you got a lot of developing character relationships. Then you get into the 70s, and it's like everything's kind of growing up like a little bit, not too much, but you're dealing with more things like drug addictions, relationships on like a different level than you were in the 60s. And then once you get into like the 80s, then you're dealing with like where you're growing up even a little more. You're taking concepts and taking them further. You're taking some of the ideas from the 60s and kind of bringing them to their logical conclusions. So then once you get into like the mid 90s or so, you've run out of shit. And then then it's that by the time you get into like the late 90s into the 2000s and so forth, you're dealing with like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of an idea.
Sure.
And that's where you start. I think things just naturally fall apart. And I gotta follow with Yule. Not All Robots is amazing. I love that series.
Yeah, that's been a very, very good title. I like
Mark Russell and Mike Deodato Jr. Great.
Jesus, I'm not that old, people in the chat, for God's sake. I would have picked a side in the Civil War. Very funny. I don't know where to go with that. A lot of comics now. Eric, I don't know if you've seen these streams before, but we've hit the Dynamite section of the comics, and so in the last weeks, normally Dynamite has quite a cover gallery to go through, but last time we did this, there was nothing. It was very, very strange. I don't know if Nick is with us in the chat here tonight. I think Jeff may have departed. We scared him off from Dynamite.
Oh, that's too bad, because I realized that I've been drinking out of this.
Wow!
This whole time I've been drinking out of my Jeff Thorne commemorative water bottle.
Come on,
go.
Where's Jeff? He'll have to
BPA
pop
free.
In. This is his favorite section. I know the rest of the chat all hates this, but so what does Dynamite have for us? Well, perhaps good news to make up. Oh no, he's still here. Good.
Hooray!
To make up for, I think, an off week a couple weeks ago, Dynamite gives us not just
oh boy,
one full. Believe it or not, this is one of two. So Dynamite with a little bit of everything for everyone. In many sense, I don't know how she's balancing on that moon there, but
I don't know if I'd say this is for everyone though, because this is a very top heavy week.
Oh well, hang on, don't worry.
Okay.
So, we get again not just one, but a second panel. So
all right, okay.
What?
Overall, still top heavy, but it's a little pandering to the. To the other side. So.
What strikes me is they're only putting out 3 unique comics next week, but enough. And I could have gone for a third screen, but I worried that I would completely overdo it at this point. But anyway, where's Nick when we need him? It's
right.
That bear looks like it's just struggling for dear life.
She does look like she's strangling it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The eyes are the bear does not look as happy as you would expect the bear to look. It's bear's kind of looking down at that other cover there to the right.
Yeah. Well, I bear it no mind. So.
Yeah. Oh
God.
Oh,
I think the one that offends my eyes the most is that Barbarella cover that serves no purpose other than
Oh, well, now.
It's like, what is she doing? Like,
Well,
why would you stand like that?
She's contemplating sitting on the dog's head that's behind her, but
That's
she's a little worried that the dog might move, and there's a spiky collar that you might be able to see. And if she lands incorrectly, it's going to be very painful.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me email my LCS and make sure I get one of those.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, we spin right into Pirate, Penguin, and Ninja Chicken, which is also I love the retailers unboxing all this stuff all in one go, and it's what a ride. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, there we have it. So as I mentioned earlier, IDW apparently has lost the Marvel license, so we'll have to look more into that. Have you read Vampirella, Eric?
Not in a while. Priest is a writer that I've followed for most of my time as a comics fan, and so I will check out Vampirella issues on and off when he is writing it. It's no Quantum and Woody or Deathstroke, but it's there, and definitely something that he's written. I can say, but I have not. I confess to not having read Vampirella in a little bit.
You're putting out the best cover quotes, I think, that we could possibly use for some of these. Image coming out with quite a bit again next week. I think they're topping, no pun intended, what Marvel is doing, or at least balancing it. Image seemed to kind of sneak up on me, at least over the last kind of year and a half, of just putting out a massive amount of books. They've expanded their publishing line significantly over the last 2 years. And a lot of different things here. To Image's credit, there's several genres all listed here under one label, including Sweet Paprika here.
There's a lot going on at Image right now, and a lot of it is excellent, right? And I just because I don't love everything that Image is putting out absolutely doesn't mean right. But I definitely doesn't mean that there's not someone who loves everything that Image is putting out, right? There's something for everyone at Image right now, and I felt like for a little while they had kind of lost sight of that. There was a period a few years back where it seemed like all the Image books that were coming out or that people were talking about were just the Kieran Gillens and the Hickmans and the Fractions coming out of Marvel and doing whatever their project was that Marvel wouldn't let them do in whatever Marvel book they had previously been reading. But it feels like Image is legitimately doing more right now with in terms of genre, in terms of creators outside of those big A-list names, and some of it has been really fantastic.
There's some really good books in there.
Yeah, and some of it is definitely not for me, but I check out pretty much every number one that I see from Image Central, and then occasionally a Shadowline or a Top Cow book will make it onto my pull list.
I think right now you've got Frontiersman, you've got Kingspawn, you got Vinyl, that Texas Blood. Those are 4 radically different books, and almost I like what you're saying, because I do think Image almost needs to do not a rebranding, but they almost need to come out and remind people that they are doing a lot of different things. Because to your point, about 5 years ago, a lot of stuff was similar, and they've really expanded. I think their only publisher right now, certainly at this level, they're putting out so much. But they're playing in a lot of different fields, and I'm not sure everybody really remembers that or knows that yet.
Yeah, and I hope they do. There are, even in this list, there's 4 or 5 books that I'll be picking up next week.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple, I keep getting admonished by my friends because I'm not reading Philadelphia, and everyone's telling me I should be.
Yeah, it's a good book. Stillwater is a really solid book as well. There's some good stuff in here. Well, Marvel, Yeah, I mean, Marvel has less, I think, by a title next week. For sure. Everybody is now, I think they are picking up on the fact that I'm torturing you with a lot of a lot of covers here tonight. There's not too many more, although I'm wondering how it's going to get when we get to the intentional or not section, but we'll see how you like that. The next week comes out with Death of Doctor Strange, which do you think this character is actually going to stay dead right before they put out a movie?
I mean, given Marvel's track record of marketing synergy, I wouldn't be surprised. Mm-hmm. But who knows?
Seems a little strange. This is the new character coming out in Captain America 4, the United States of Captain America, that was apparently awkwardly named, but they seem to have moved past that controversy for a week.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I guess Moon Knight is coming out. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the Alien, I'm sticking with it. I don't know why at times, but I'm sticking with it. So
we did, Amazing Spider-Man is taking a week off before Nick Spencer's final issue, to answer a question there in the chat. And Guardians of the Galaxy just seems weirdly delayed, or maybe Al Ewing's got too many things going on. I'm not sure what's going on, but anyway, this is the end, Joe. I feel it's been a long slog, but this is
hooray! They put out so many comics.
Getting a lot of comics, and the funny part, none of this references the manga that is out. So this is also a whole other pile of things. I have to. Do you like Big Girls #1? Anyway, and I love the when will Ayumu make his move, which is. I love the way these things are titled. But
yeah, I mean, Fist of the North Star, they've been reissuing that, and I feel like that's been getting some buzz. Mm-hmm. I feel like B-Stars, a lot of weird people have been really obsessed with that, and it makes me uncomfortable. And, The Way of the House Husband, people won't shut the fuck up about that either.
Well, it's on Netflix now, right? Is that the...
Yeah.
All right. I think mostly they're not happy with the anime translation. I think
that's what I've been hearing overall.
Yeah. But I just know that if I get to the end of that book and Ayumu has not made his move, I am going to want my money back.
How many volumes do you suppose? Like, are we supposed to stick around for 8 or 9 volumes of him making his move? I mean, the title starts to become torture at that point.
Right.
I also think that do you like big girls is a leading question here when the guy's basically propping her up so she can stand. I mean, maybe the question is, does she like his head there?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway. Manga. Our favorite. Well, we talked a little bit about market changes and other things. I mean, kind of getting more into it. Like, what's your take? A lot of movements right now. Penguin Random House, Marvel going there, now IDW, right, as we went on the air. Marvel pulling the action license from IDW, Diamond saying we're still going to hang in there. Do you have a take of where all this winds up, especially as somebody who's now had successful crowdfunding books, done a lot of indie work? Where do you think this goes?
Well, I mean, prior to IDW, is IDW only the second publisher to officially tie their God, I can't talk this evening. Join Penguin Random House,
right?
But prior to that, we were seeing a lot of this, the medium press publishers, Ahoy, Scout, were signing non-exclusive deals with Lunar, and that obviously felt like them preparing for Diamond's inevitable demise. Or at least for, if not for that, at least for more and more retailers to be able to cut their ties with Diamond. Yeah. And, I mean, I think the hope is that, like I said at the top of the show, the hope is that we are not just replacing one monopoly with another.
Yeah.
And that, that these deals aren't all exclusive, and that retailers, and I've seen a couple of retailers weigh in on social media, is that retailers would like to have options. They would like to not have to deal with one company exclusively. Perch, you're out here in the Pacific Northwest, and you remember just a couple of months ago, and it's not the first time that it's happened, where every store in the Seattle area had their books delayed by a day. It happens especially in the winter months when trucks can't get over the pass to bring us our books. So retailers having options when things like that happen is a good thing for the industry. So the hope is that we don't end up with another monopoly replacing the old monopoly. Monopolies are bad, but hopefully we can fix that problem without just stepping into a different can of worms, different issue.
It feels like a problem for sure. I mean, I think that Penguin Random House, I think it'll take longer for problems to crop up. I mean, they're viewing kind of the local comic market and these shops as a way to grow their bottom line, because they're looking for other retail locations. And so there'll be a period of time where they're just trying to build momentum and grow territory. But I think I mentioned this earlier, kind of in a different video. I think the path for Diamond to be successful is just getting smaller and smaller. At this point, it's going to be difficult, I think, to wholesale Marvel and IDW. DC's already off. Like part of their strategy at this point is going to become, hoping that Penguin Random House flops in terms of, or they can't ship out properly, and they can win some people back. I think it's cornering them into a very unpleasant place. And I don't think that long term is going to be healthy. I think Penguin Random House is hopefully again they're able to do some good for a while, but as you say, it's just another monopoly to deal with. And at what point do they start to lose interest in some of this? And I don't know.
Yeah. I think the very long-winded roundabout way, what I was trying to say was that exclusive deals are bad, and I hope that if these companies are going to Penguin Random House over Diamond, it won't eliminate the possibility of something like Lunar existing as a secondary distributor for some of these companies.
I know, I agree. I wish I wish there was more options. I mean, this is what I liked about the late 80s, early 90s you had. I used to deal with Capital City. I liked that group quite a bit, more than certainly Diamond. But there were a lot of options you could pick. And so, and different territories tended to work different ways, and it was healthier. And it's going to be a weird balancing act here for sure. And I'm not sure how ultimately this works out. And I do wish these deals were not exclusive, but anyway, and of course, on top of all this, you've done some crowdfunding books. Both of you have. And how where do you see that going? Do you think that continues to grow? Do you think that matures? Where does that fit into the overall ecosystem?
I think the problem with crowdfunding as as distribution is that everyone does it a little bit differently. And there are going to be those creators out there that are crowdfunding so they can make a book, and there are people who are crowdfunding so they can distribute a book. And so if I back a book, or if person A backs a book and it shows up 2 weeks after the end of the campaign, and they back another book and it shows up 9 months after a campaign, I think that will confuse the issue. And I don't know if there's a way to there's no way to standardize that. I'm really curious. I've been really kind of watching this Zoop, the comics specific crowdfunding company that just did they've done some work with Ray Anthony Height and Ron Mars and Rick Leonardi recently, and just kind of curious to see how that works out, because those seem to be working from a specific timeline in terms of when they will have their fulfillment done.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm
I'd add to that though that more publishers are jumping into crowdfunding. We have the Archie Kickstarter up now, but also I have no idea why. I haven't seen anyone reporting on this at all. But Valiant's website added a Kickstarter tab to the top of their page. Yeah. And when you click on it, it says sign up for all the latest updates on Valiant's official Kickstarter campaigns. And you can sign up for that. And 0 people are talking about it. That seems like something that would be reported on.
But do they have any campaigns? Or is it just sign up for future campaigns that are coming at some point in the future?
Yeah, it's just sign up for future campaigns, but that's clearly they're making it very obvious that they're going to be doing this soon. And as a publisher, officially you are crowdfunding their comics, and that seems like something that people would have been all over one way or the other not that long ago, and I don't know why people aren't talking about it.
Feels like maybe some apathy on Valiant, to be honest.
And I mean, for those kind of situations, I would really love to hear a retailer's feeling on the Kickstarter campaigns. Like, it sounds like Berserker, just to use the most prominent example, is doing well in the direct market. But if you are a retailer, a brick and mortar retailer, and you see a major company like Boom that you've previously supported, basically, doing an end around on the normal distribution channel to put the books directly in the hands of that number of, that book raised what, umpty $1 million. I don't actually know.
Umpty million, yeah.
Umpty million, I think, was the official final numbers. That's gotta, make you take a second look at supporting and promoting that book in your store.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I don't want to see, crowdfunding, have a damaging effect on the direct market. The direct market's broken in a lot of ways, but I think comic stores as a meeting and gathering place for comics fans are vital to the medium and the industry. And I don't want to see those be damaged by, whether it's crowdfunding or, between crowdfunding and the monopolization of distribution. I don't want to see more comic stores close.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think. I mean, most retailers, and then we'll do some inappropriate stuff with you. But hooray, it's coming. I think that most comic shops, I don't think they view crowdfunding as threatening. I think it's, it is another place. I mean, at this point, the volume of comics going into the shop versus the volume of crowdfunded books, it's just so. I mean, we just looked through 100+ books, and they're still pushing out 500 or so a month, or anywhere from 450 to 500 a month. New comics are coming out. So I think the crowdfunding stuff isn't interfering with that. I do think that there's an opportunity potentially for the crowdfunded books to provide some marketing to drive people into the shops that weren't going before. But they are disconnected ecosystems today, and they're not. There's still a lot of glue to be made. Perhaps Zoop is something that can do that, but it feels like they're having a lot of trouble making traction as well. So we'll see. They've got some good names in kind of their inaugural books, but there's a lot of noise, and it's hard to sort through that noise, I think, at the moment.
Sure. I mean, you think about last thought before we move on to lighter topics is most of the people that were pledging on Berserker weren't there because it was a comic book. They were there because of the Keanu Reeves attachment.
Sure.
And, Zoop doesn't have the capacity to pull in that kind of audience because they're a comic book centric and they're not a Keanu Reeves centric crowdfunding site.
Right. Well, and I think there's they've got some scale issues. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Well, all right, Eric. So we got some panels up here, and the question is: was the writer or the artist doing this intentionally or not? So, I mean, some things have aged differently. So the question becomes: is this some kind of inside joke that the person has made, or what's going on? This is just a fun picture. What's going on with Batwoman's mask, though? Like the artist went to business on those ears.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't recall her ever running around like that.
I feel like she would have trouble walking through a doorway with those.
Yeah, that's not, that entire costume is nuts. But anyway, we'll get right into it. Okay, so first one here, you guys tell me which intentional or not. Here we go. How about this?
Jesus. I'm going to say it's definitely intentional on the part of the artist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not the writer did not anticipate this.
Yeah, I agree. I see this as a classic case where the writer is basically just having Batman, try and grapple with something, and the artist kind of went to town on it. Kind of like Batman's doing to that whatever the hell he's got there.
I hope he bought him dinner first.
Yeah. I love the motion lines, which really kind of sells that they're working hard.
And that tail is going.
I mean, Batman's feet are off the ground, so where is he getting leverage?
I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like. Okay, that's a good. It's not Catwoman, Batman. You're drunk. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, this is coming up in the next issue of Tom King's Batcat book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They're still doing that, huh?
I guess so. How about this panel? This panel confuses me a little bit here on a number of levels. So obviously the Red Skull is tormenting Cap, but this is a hell of a scene.
This one is absolutely. I think this is probably a dig at Batman's relationship with Robin as much as it is Captain America's relationship with Bucky.
Yeah, I think so. What I don't understand here is, like, why is Cap just standing there having a conversation with the Red Skull like this? Like this.
I mean, he's considering it.
He looks angry, but not like he's just standing there. Like, will this be converted into a Marvel? Like,
now we're talking, right?
I mean, poor Cap and poor Bucky. I mean, he kind of drove Rick Jones insane by kind of encouraging him to dress up like his, boy that died for a while. That was a weird time.
Yeah, this one's disturbing. All right, how about this one? You wouldn't see in a Marvel comic today.
What is going on in the background? Are they dancing in the sky?
I can't tell if they're dancing or having some kind of weird fight. I also, I think if the thing was paddling you, it would kill you. I mean, it depends on how much of his back he's putting into it, I suppose. But Moon Dragon doesn't look like she's having a good time.
No, but I mean, this is so when we go back to the 1961 to 1992 question. So I mean, this is pretty much I feel like this is a slam dunk answer to that question.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Anyway, probably not something that will be, you're probably not wrong here, Mumbles. People ask me this question from time to time, how much effort do I put into finding these? Surprisingly little. Like I don't have to dig very far, and there are thousands of panels like this. So anyway, this was yeah, maybe it was her birthday. I don't know. All right. From further back, a lot of things are going on into this one as well. So Batman, at first, it just looks like Batman's being tormented by a goat that appears to be tonguing him. But then as you read further, the Joker has set up a whole film studio and is making a movie and specifically calls out that this is a love scene with a goat.
So this is basically the first episode of Black Mirror.
Yes, there you go.
With Batman and a goat instead of... anyway.
Yeah. Comics were weird back then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is what's awful. Also, if you can really just see in the background there, Robin is just forced to kind of sit there and look on. Yeah, why isn't this in the Snyderverse?
Let's not have another director's cut, please.
Yeah, they can fit this in.
There's probably more of that Justice League movie. They probably only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, this is anyway. These are the kind of adventures that Batman would get up to. And once again, Jeff, you can easily fit this into a future issue of Green Lantern. I'm just saying.
Give the goat a ring.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, notice the Red Skull did not offer Cap any goats. So that's why DC won. Anyway. All right. So curious about social media. So Eric, you're on these various platforms. What do you think? Is social media a force for good or helpful for comics or terrible?
Yes.
Okay. How do you harness social media in a way that actually helps?
You know, I have this like Joe is a little bit like my Jiminy Cricket when it comes to Twitter.
Oh.
And I will occasionally just run something past him before I put it out there in the ether. And then when I don't, sometimes I regret it. But you know, it's as a tool for promotion, as a tool for networking, I think Twitter and Facebook and Instagram are wonderful as a promotion, as a way to, you know, just self-own and embarrass yourself in front of thousands of people. You know, Twitter is also wonderful in that regard, as long as it's not me who's self-owning or embarrassing myself in front of thousands of people.
That fits, yeah.
You know, like Ben Shapiro talking about what WAP means. You know, I mean, that was comedy gold.
Sure, but yeah, like it's great for networking to an extent. But if, like, for example, here, if you're using this to network, and then an editor or publisher is like, oh, let me click on their on their Twitter account, and it's like, oh, they're eating mushrooms out of a mattress on the side of the road. No.
Right. Yeah, you definitely have to police your own tweets, and I'm sure that I probably should go back and delete everything that I've set up to this moment, because you know, this platform is probably going to put some new eyes on my Twitter account, and I don't want people seeing me tweet about, I don't know, anything.
I nuked everything prior to 2021 because why keep it up there?
Sure.
But generally speaking, if there's somebody who's, say, a fairly high-ranking person in one of the comic publishers, this isn't something that you would recommend they tweet?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Maybe this is something that Twitter could do, is they could put some kind of AI here that when it reads your tweets, it's like, hey, you sound like an asshole. Are you sure?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there should be a plugin or some sort of. I think you could probably make a lot of money as an app developer if you could, you know, create that as a Chrome plugin or something where, you know, because like now Twitter is doing this thing where it'll admonish you against retweeting an article if you didn't actually click on the article to read it. And that same level of AI could be employed to stop you from sounding like a goddamn idiot.
Yeah. There should be a prompt that goes like, if you tweet this, you gain, best case scenario, you gain nothing. Worst case scenario, you lose everything. Do you tweet?
Like, it feels like they wouldn't even need intelligence behind it. They could just put the plug in so it always says that. It's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't tweet this.
And you could make it Clippy. You could just make the little icon look like Clippy, and everyone would think it was hilarious. Yeah. And you could give Microsoft, half a cent in royalties for every tweet that it actually stopped.
There you go.
Probably wouldn't be that much.
You could do something over time where the more you hit go ahead and tweet anyway, the Clippy icon gets more crappy. Like he gets stubble and he starts looking drunk and bent and fucked up. And it's like it's another visual cue to you, like, hey, you're destroying yourself here, but whatever you want.
Sure. Or if it there's gotta be more ways, like or a prompt that just says like, don't you think maybe you should like talk to a friend about this instead of tweeting it? Things like that.
Well, I do wonder why there's a lot of tweets out there that you see that you really wish the person would go get help from somebody rather than post these thoughts in public.
That, and there should also be another prompt for everyone who changes their like handle to being like on hiatus to be like, I noticed you said that you're on hiatus, but you fucking aren't. You want to change that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That and yeah.
It's like people have started putting on hiatus in their handle as a way to be like, I only tweet 12 times a day now.
Yeah.
Or just like basic algebra that you have to solve just to ensure that you're not too drunk to tweet before you send out any sort of message.
There you
go.
Well,
yeah, you'd like those the bot forms where they put a little picture up and it's like identify all the pictures with cars or street lamps or something. But the picture could be like identify things that are not in, like what of the things in this picture would you eat? And they would just be a bunch of like, some food, but then also like a bolt and some other stuff.
Or some mushrooms growing out of a mattress on the side of the road, for example.
Or, a prompt that's like, hey, it's 2 a.m. your time and you're probably drunk. I'm locking this your Twitter account. Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff like I think that's fair. But all I'm just saying is if you're a senior editor, maybe you shouldn't tweet this. But
anyway. I got to step away for just a second. I'll be back.
No problem.
Awesome.
While you're gone, Joe, we have some letters. I think most people remember this one. This was in the pages.
Oh, I remember this one. Yeah.
Yeah, this was in the pages of America Chavez, and this was basically somebody who trolled. I think 4chan took responsibility, but it was basic. They got this letter printed, kind of over the top, praise of this book, and then referenced the room. What? Do you think this was an honest mistake, or do you think somebody in the comic knew what was going on here and just printed it through? And by the way, while he's gone, how much did we embarrass Eric, do you think?
Not enough. And here, I'm going to say none of them got it. Because if you got it, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's, I remember that happening. What a fucking embarrassment. It's not the most embarrassing thing that's happened at Marvel by a mile, but that was very weird when they printed that in America, where it's very clearly a sarcastic letter.
For sure.
That was very weird. I don't know why you do that.
There's been a few. I mean, over the years, you've seen people post kind of sarcastic things, either just to get something printed. They knew that if they went over the top, the comic would do it, or kind of low-level trolling. But this one, like I said, this was very obviously a troll. Very obviously, you wouldn't do this as one of the fading issues of America. So.
Yeah, that was very, very odd. But I mean, this is the same. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a level of intention here, just like all the stories about like when Jack Kirby came back to do Captain America and the editors on it kept running all these letters about how much Jack Kirby sucks.
Yeah. No.
Like, that was weird.
I just think if you're a publisher, you're looking at this letter that's coming in, you're like, you want to put it in a comic, and you hit the sentence, sometimes I'm left beyond belief what I've seen printed. That's a clue that this person might be screwing with you.
Yeah, and I've seen Tommy Wiseau introduce The Room. It's a wonderful time. We threw spoons, plastic spoons. No one was hurt, and things like that. It's great. I'm such a big fan of that movie. I've disgusted you before when I've said that I've seen this movie more than Casablanca, but
You just disgusted. I mean, you disgusted everyone with that. I think even look
the
at
important thing is I've seen Casablanca. It's not like I'm like, fuck Casablanca, but I've seen The Room. At least I've seen that movie at least a dozen times. Funny story, it's not funny at all. The DVD copy I inherited from the wife of a friend of mine who killed himself.
That's hilarious, Joe.
Thanks
for sharing that story.
No problem.
Holy shit. Oh my God.
We set new standards here. Absolutely. All right. So there you have it. So comics, this as we mentioned before, this was a big week in the past with comics. We can kind of put some of these up where we just talk about whatever we'd like to talk about, certainly as always. Yeah. But got a little bit of everything here. There's Rob Liefeld doing a cover to Wolverine. Certainly, I like this this cover of World's Finest, which is older. Which is this woman is basically killing off Superman, and she's just got Batman being torn apart by a bunch of raving lunatic crowd people. Like, what do you make of all this?
She looks way too just like happy to be there.
Oh, she's killing them, so she's thrilled. This was the previous trial of Magneto as well. So
that Wolverine cover is obviously Liefeld trying to do his best Todd McFarlane impression of the famous Wolverine Hulk cover.
Yeah,
I assume. And Todd wore it better.
Oh God, 1,000,000%.
Yeah. This was what was the deal with the trial of Magneto here? He had to have his trial in France, and the Fenris siblings.
Didn't he kill a bunch of people on a submarine or something?
He was. I mean, who hasn't Magneto killed at one point or another?
That's fair, but yeah, that's right. Oh, and it was a double-sized issue. All the better. But yeah, that was wasn't this right? This is right before the Cyclops and Storm fight. Yeah,
201. Yeah, that was a Cyclops Storm, that kind of revolutionary issue here. And here's a comic I know that's one of your favorites here from Legion of Superheroes.
Yes, another giant-sized issue. But no, what a great time. That's some good stuff there, and some Green Lantern. That's like a little before the Len Wein reboot, right? Like a year before or something like that. I'm trying to think.
Lard, yeah.
When
Eric? When did you mentioned collecting comics and getting out of it? When did you start? Did you go back into any of these into this era?
I read that X-Men issue I started collecting, I don't know, 90, 91, and I never was a DC kid. Like I said when we were talking about the solicitations, is I'm reading way more DC now than I ever did in the past in my, in either of the periods where I was a comic book fan. I am reading more DC right now. So most of these are, books that I'm familiar with existing, but I didn't really read too many of them.
It's I know Joe and I need to do the retrospective on the Great Darkness saga for sure. But I mean, there was a lot of good stuff here. I still love the time of DC where it was I guess it was the Silver Age and Superman was a colossal dick. I think just Superman being an ass has always been kind of my favorite piece. But Anyway, speaking of kind of odd things, I mean, this was the reboot of the Avengers. Why is Rom basically like this? This seems like a troublesome salute that they're giving here.
That is probably that doesn't age well at all.
No. No, and at first you're like, no, it's just. But if you look close, no, it's exactly how it looks. I'm not. It's anyway intentional. Yeah, there you have it. This was a cool issue of Uncanny X-Men, though. This was back. This was when Wolverine headed up to kind of see. He went back to see some of his folks in Alpha Flight in this, I believe. I may have that wrong, but.
Well, yeah. So what was it? This is
140. So this was
140. So this is during that period of time everyone skips over when they talk about X-Men because they go Dark Phoenix Saga and then Days of Future Past and some shit happened in between, I guess.
We kind of go Days of Future Past and then Mutant Massacre for a lot of people, which skips about 100 issues.
Yeah. Which is crazy because so much great stuff happens in between that I don't have to tell you guys. But
well, yeah, I mean, Claremont's, Claremont and also with John Byrne, like they're big Alpha Flight fans and did a lot. Like they brought in Alpha Flight and vice versa. There's some great X-Men and Wolverine guest starring appearances in the original Alpha Flight series.
Oh yeah. No, they were Canuts for that title.
Oh Jesus, Joe.
Hello? Hello?
The Norm stuff really hit you hard this week. Yeah, this issue of the Avengers was the one that featured that gigantic-legged Enchantress. So that's kind of your teaser.
So Scarlet Witch can't turn her head, right? Like
no.
Okay.
No, she's locked in there. Yeah.
God, like what a miserable time to exist. Like, can you imagine like looking at that cover and wanting anything to do with comics?
Well,
like you just look at something like that and you're like, I'm done. Forget it.
But it did. I mean, this stuff sold great. I'll tell you. I mean,
sure, but like,
this was a weird
sucks.
time. This was, I mean, right leading into this, the Wasp was an actual insect woman. I mean, there was a lot of terrifying things coming into this.
For sure. Like I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It's just that that's just awful. Like I get it, but like, it's so great at the time. And this is a whole other weird conversation we could have another time. But like, you could put that same cover out now and that might move 40,000 copies. Like, it's just a different times, different things
sure.
move.
I mean, this kind of burnt out. I think what's going on here is that Swordsman or Joe? Oh, that's a low blow right there. Yikes! I hadn't seen it. Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, I didn't see it before either.
So basically, I mean, Liefeld was red hot coming into this, and he did Youngblood, and a lot of those sold really well. But then the delays kind of kicked in, and right about the time this came in, he was. It wasn't struggling by any stretch of imagination. I mean, he still sold over 100,000 copies of this thing, but
for sure.
It did. Jim Lee did lap him during this period because Lee came in to do the Fantastic Four, and it outsold the Avengers and Cap.
Lee was I thought much better on this, but also like this is also just like I feel like that cover is like rough for like Rob Liefeld standards. Even like that's just not a good even Liefeld cover.
Well, this was when they discovered Photoshop filters, which is that background there. But I don't know.
Oh, sure.
Somebody points out that ROM cover is somehow less disturbing.
Then, okay.
Tomorrow belongs to ROM, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Superman getting burnt to hell. Yeah. This was during the period in the 90s where Spawn also was just sold everything. Did you get much into the Image book, into Spawn and those kind of early books, Eric?
Yes. I was very much an art-centric collector and reader in my first go at comics. So I followed all of those guys over to Image and bought everything that Image put out religiously, and discovered that, you know, Eric Larson was a pretty good writer, and beyond that, you know, there was something to this Chris Claremont kid over at Marvel that was missing at Image.
Something about this Superman cover, because I feel like we've talked about this a bunch, and I feel like there's a lot of people that don't actually believe us when we talk about this. The Legion was selling so well that they're like advertising Legion stuff on a Superman cover to like get you to buy Superman.
Yeah.
Like Legion dominated DC titles. The only one that was doing better was Teen Titans. And even then there were a handful of times that Paul on Legion would go over Marvin George, but like it was just annihilating everything. Superman and even Batman couldn't come close. Like, it's embarrassing. And it's a time that we've all like forgotten and act like didn't happen, but it did. No,
for sure. I mean, and it shows how the popular books shift over time. I mean, we saw, on Marvel, you saw the X-Men dominate for decades, and then Marvel kind of shoot the X-Men in the face on purpose due to the Fox deal, and now we're trying to kind of push it back. But it's
oh yeah,
DC had this massive sea change of what was popular for sure. It's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, here's Fantastic Four. This was Jim Lee's take, which
that's a much better cover.
Well, sure.
Just composition wise and everything.
Well, and you'll notice that the Thing is not preparing to paddle Moondragon either.
Well, I mean that's to the cover's detriment, but
yeah,
that's an issue too.
Yeah.
Conan grappling with tentacles, so showing that even Marvel at this time was ahead of hentai. So
absolutely, but Defenders was always such a weird book. It felt like a book that they put out because they wanted something to do with some of these other characters, and it just always felt like it was just plodding along with these who do we got? Put them in the Defenders. Oh, someone came up with something they want to do with one of those characters. All right, we'll take another character that no one's doing stuff with, and they're a new Defender now.
Yeah, it didn't feel like Marvel had the best plan for that title, for sure. People just kind of wandered in and out of it. I think there were some great comics during that run, but it didn't ever feel like there was a clear purpose.
Yeah, there's a difference between there being good issues and stories and having a path and a goal. And I feel like Defenders never really felt like there was a goal or there was leading to something.
I think that, it didn't benefit from being the secondary book. And it never really rose above any of that. You mentioned Teen Titans. This is obviously, I think, part of when it was having a pretty good run of itself, but also this Batman cover is pretty awesome, right?
I love that Batman. It's a great era in Batman. That's, I think Don Newton's still the lead artist on Batman at the time. I think that's before he died, because he died in 84, I want to say. And, bye, Jeff.
Bye, Jeff.
But yeah, Joker's wild. That was a great 2-part story from, Batman Detective. You have Doug Menck on the, writing duties. Vicky Vale's in it. That, I think, I forget if it's in the Batman issue or the Detective Comics issue, but in that 2-part story, we get the first reveal of Jason Todd in the Robin costume. So it's a really important story that because DC is so embarrassed about everything pre-crisis, they don't highlight to their own detriment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of comics here that could get reprinted and everything else, I'm surprised they don't mind this era very much. But it feels like a lot of people in the company have kind of forgotten it existed.
And it's one of the best. That's like a 6-year run between Jerry Conway and Doug on Batman. That's easily one of the best runs if you combine those two of any era of Batman, and they act like it never happened.
This is not a variant cover. That was the market cover of that book. They weren't even doing variant covers back then.
No, not really. No,
not anything.
But it's a really good fucking cover. I don't know who the cover artist is because it's probably, I don't know if that's Don. It doesn't look like a Don Newton cover.
That is Walt Simonson.
There you go.
So
that makes sense. that Walt kid's pretty good.
Yeah, it turns out that he posted up an uncolored version of this a while back, and it was wonderful. So a lot of his stuff, I think, always looked better in black and white in many ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great in color, but he sold the black and white stuff really well.
Sure.
And then you got the Avengers versus Cowboys. So again, it feels like Thor could easily handle this situation on his own.
That's almost every Avengers comic. Like, Thor, you want to just do this?
Yeah, I really don't know why they don't. He's always in the background, kind of holding up his hammer. Like, why? Like, you've got Ultron here. Why are they letting the Wasp tackle this on her own? Terrible plan. Like, you have much stronger Avengers just waiting there. But
yeah, especially with Thor, Vision. Thor and Vision, it's like, I feel like those two got this.
Yeah.
Like, and then that's a Bill Mantlo Hulk, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a solid run on that book.
Now they list this as 4 new enemies, but this wasn't the introduction of the UFOs, was it? I thought they had appeared before now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought they
254. I could swear they've shown up before, but
I thought so. It's possible. I'm very wrong.
Moondragon is still up and walking around in this issue, so she survived whatever the thing did to her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, there we go. What do I got here? The awkward cover. House of Mysteries. Is that Elvira? Yeah, it is. She doing an appearance in DC. Any of these here, Eric? But this again is DC. This is kind of, you weren't really into any of these, right?
I actually read the Man of Steel series, the 6-issue mini series, because I read all of the, and actually I read them much later. I read all of the sort of the Reboot series that came after Crisis. So I read Man of Steel, and I read Year One, and I read Longbow Hunters, and I read the reboot with George Perez reboot of Wonder Woman. All of those post-Crisis reintroductions of the character. So yeah, I've read the Byrne 6-issue miniseries.
It was a good way to relaunch the character after Crisis. I mean, and obviously it did really well. It's selling as one of the top trades that they have out on Amazon here now. What would it be? Almost 40 years later.
Yeah.
I feel
35, yeah.
I feel like I wasn't that impressed with it, and I feel like there's a little bit of revisionist history going on about the quality of the storytelling, in part because, Superman kills General Zod during Byrne's extended run on Superman, and I think there's, people turn to that as their justification for the Snyderverse existing.
Yep. I think you're right. So the interesting thing about Byrne's Superman run is you read it, and it's not the most amazing stuff, but I mean the art looks, it's Byrne, so I think the art's on top. But the thing it had going for it was it did put a focus on Superman, even if some of the adventures were stupid, like Superman being tricked into being in a porn film with Big Barda. They were Superman adventures, and as you read through it, it winds up being a good, I think, entry point for a lot of people because it really put the focus on him. And I that's one of the areas where it feels like with the big two in general, they could do with a couple comics that just were somewhat no nonsense, focus on the hero character to kind of build up their IP. Instead, they have to reprint these issues. But it's not great stories. I mean, they're not amazing.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's I think part of what makes Burns' era on Superman stand out too is, here's more revisionist history. Batman, for years after Crisis, was a fucking mess. They went through multiple writers. You know, you had Frank Miller do year one, but there were issues before that. I forget the writer who was working on it then, but that didn't work. And then you had Jim Starlin. And I know there's a lot of people that love Jim Starlin on Batman. I thought he sucked on Batman. He's done great stuff. I love a lot of stuff, particularly Jim Starlin's Marvel work. Way ahead of his time. But fuck his Batman. Like, I mean, death in the a death in the family. What are we talking about here? That was awful, and they thought it was awful. Like, that was like, it was a whole weird time. Denny didn't want to do it. Jim wasn't happy. Like, no one was happy or enjoying themselves at the time. It was like, read the interviews and read what people were saying at the time, and like, it was basically like, Denny's upset and Jim's upset, so we both decided we're just going to be miserable. No,
I did, as somebody points out, I'm reminded by Batman the Cult, which I thought was a great story, but you're right, there are some clunkers in there for sure.
That it's more from him taking the reins and then moving, and like, there was all sorts of stuff going on. Like, no one liked how Jim was handling Jason Todd. You know, Jim didn't like Jason Todd. Like, all that stuff was going on. And but it's like,
come on, the
amount of people, no one can read A Death in the Family and go, that's a cohesive story that made a lot of sense that I enjoyed. It's complete insanity.
Right. Doesn't the Joker get away with it by becoming an ambassador to some country?
Iran.
Gave him, is it Iran?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Iran.
And then he gets diplomatic immunity, so Batman can't touch him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, but then Jason Todd found out his mother was still alive, but his mother worked for Joker, and then gets him killed. You know, it's just this whole it's like, what the fuck are you guys even doing? Like,
thanks a lot, Biden.
Yeah. You know, but it's like, but the thing is, everyone who is clutching their pearls at me saying something like that, you didn't read the Batman for 6 years before that, where it was fucking pumping it out on all, like, just incredible for years, and then we got that. It was like, what the fuck is this?
That drink has hit Joe at this point, but
yeah, Joe is definitely.
But here's a comic that everyone can agree is incredible. One More Day.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's well. I mean, I don't know. I've talked to Joe on and off about the weird somersaults and gymnastics that are currently going on in Amazing Spider-Man to try and undo parts of the Straczynski run, the two most problematic, divisive parts of it, One More Day and Sins Past. And it would have just been better if this had never happened.
Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like there's a lot of easier ways to do this. I remember, by the way, when this issue came out, the dot on the $3.99 wasn't printed terribly well, and you do see the sense there. But I remember making jokes about how Marvel is pushing to $399, which is not quite as funny today as it was back then. Anyway, this is this cool Iron Man cover, though.
No, it's Luke McDonnell. That's we're in the Denny O'Neil run. That's a great time.
Gladiators beating the crap out of Fantastic Four, punishing the Thing for spanking Moondragon.
That was a fun. I feel like that was that like a couple of issues in that run that they, or did they finish off Gladiator? Yeah,
Yeah.
because didn't it cross over with Avengers or something? I'm trying to think. Like
They showed up. I think everybody showed up kind of in the second issue. Spider-Man and the Avengers were there.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Skrulls were involved. I think the Skrulls were the X-Men or something. I think.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was good. I enjoyed that bit.
Yeah, and they kind of they basically did more with Gladiator, and Byrne was kind of making fun of Superman, I think, at this period before he would go over and then actually work on Superman. But yeah, so some good stuff. But everybody, who doesn't love One More Day? And speaking of Batman runs, I think you like Amazing Man. No, I
Oh, for sure. But yeah,
this is back when the big two would actually publish titles that were intended to be funny.
there you go.
But
Now, Miller didn't actually do that cover, right? That's just whoever the regular artist.
I
because
think that,
it is a pretty good Miller pastiche.
Yes.
Yeah, the Kelly looks pretty on target. In particular, I think they nailed the image pretty well. I also like in Blue Beetle Gang War. This was during the time where the Warriors was inspiring all the gangs, so every single gang had a crazy gimmick, including like the people who were dressed up like presidents, and there's just a little bit of everything there. Yeah. What can you say?
Some good stuff. And yeah, there's also a God, that's
that What If did not age well.
No, and sadly, it's Defenders is into it twice. I screwed up their thing. I'll just.
And this is like that's like the start of. Before that was like one of the starts of an awful time to be a Batman fan, with a blip of year one, and then just more awful comics. So.
You're right. This What If cover though. What if Spider-Man's clone lived? How shitty would that be?
We would find out a few years later, and I would stop reading comics for a decade and a half.
Is that what pushed you away from it? What was? Did you have a trigger point where you're like, I've got to stop?
It was just it faded. Just things faded. It became difficult. I think the last thing that I remember being very excited about was the Maximum Carnage series. And the amount of money I would have to go to the shop every week and make sure I got the latest chapter of Maximum Carnage. And then by the time we got to the end, it was like, this is a 12-issue story. And I was previously only buying probably just Amazing at the time and not all the other Spider-Man titles. And, the 1992 or 93 equivalent of that cost for a 12-year-old kid was really taxing, and it's like, this is a 12-issue story that could have been a 4-issue story.
Yeah, I flirted with the idea of Perch and I doing a retrospective on Maximum Carnage.
Hopefully, but it's. What about what you just said, though, applies to comics today, doesn't it? I mean, there's a lot of stories that are, say, 24 issues long that could be done in 2.
And it's not just, I don't care about the length of the story, but, and it is, comics are what they are, and I don't want to be too much of a crybaby about the industry because there's so much that is really fantastic that's happening right now. But when I'm reading, and I don't want to name names, but if I have to buy 12 issues a month to know what's going on in one title, like if I was previously buying, I don't know, I'm just going to pull a title out of the ether and it has nothing to do with current events. But if I'm buying Wolverine because I enjoy Ben Percy's Wolverine, I don't necessarily want to have to buy all the other X-Men books so that I can know month on month what's happening in Ben Percy's Wolverine series. Just to give you a completely hypothetical example and not at all anything representative of my real buying habits.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I put the Defenders cover on twice. Sorry. still kind of sucks. But no, I how much this is just the writers are writing for not just the trade, but they're writing for some kind of trade collection omnibus at this point, and it's. Is there this subtle incentive to not tell a story quickly that do you think's going on, or?
There's a lot that's going on. There's some decompressive aspects of it. Just in terms of how comics are written these days. Chris Claremont issues of X-Men at their height were, novels that had a few illustrations here and there. And I think by and large, comics are better than that because the audience is more mature. We don't need everything to be spelled out for us in caption boxes when we can let the art tell the story. But you combine that with the shrinking page count. We've gone, at least I know that comics used to be shorter, but in my time, they've gone from 22 pages down to 20. So you combine those two things and you're paying $3 and $4 or more for 10 minutes of entertainment. It would be nice to have a little bit more density in the storytelling, or and again, we're having fun with these covers, and here I am, spoiling the mood talking about my purchasing habits.
No, but I wonder in some cases, when I've heard about how some of the pitches are done now with the companies, the writer comes in, they do a pitch, and it's for kind of an idea. And so it's like, well, let's take that one idea and let's stretch it across 6 issues. And if it does well, then we'll kind of stretch it further across 12 issues. And then there's your idea played out. And in many cases, some of these ideas are maybe 2-issue ideas. They're not meant for 12 issues. But
it's been a disturbing habit. Like the amount of interviews you read or watch in the past few years that have been like, oh, I pitched this idea, and then the editors loved it so much they wanted to make it a big event.
Yeah.
That crossed into everything. Like I think War of the Realms was something like that, where it was just going to be part of Aaron's run, and they were like, no, we got to make this everything. So,
and I just don't think these, you get a series that maybe was originally envisioned as 6 issues or so, or maybe even playing out in a year in a single title, and you say we're going to do War of the Realms had close to 100 crossover issues when everything was said and done. Like, there's not enough story, no matter who you are. There's just not enough story to cover that. And anyway, but whatever. It can't all be the extinction agenda, I suppose.
That's right.
Yeah. Here's Darkseid, right? This is Darkseid in Justice League when he was. We kind of mentioned this in a video that hasn't been posted up yet, but Darkseid wasn't the big bad at this point that he would later become. He was just kind of a goofy bad villain.
Yeah, no, it took a while before he was like really cemented as like the bad guy in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm. And Jonah Hex, of course, being a super racist on this cover. Probably.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's Jonah Hex.
It is Jonah Hex.
Standing around watching this, like nobody is. Nobody's leaping in to help there. I mean, I think they're having some kind of contest of strength in the river, but anyway.
Yeah, but it is nice watching them kind of be like, eh.
Yeah, I don't really care about the outcome here. There was a Sheena limited series, a 2-issue limited series. I remember when this came out, and it was striking because Marvel did everything in like 4 issues or longer, and this one came out as a 2-issue limited series, and it really felt like they were not committed to this character, but they could afford to shove out 2 issues.
They also only paid Sheena 73 cents to the dollar.
Well, that's why she can't afford better clothes.
Exactly.
I mean, she needs money for shoes. This is Mike Zeck, Storm Shadow, I believe. I always feel like he's an incredibly underrated. I mean, incredible creator, but he's kind of been forgotten. I mean, I still see his work reprinted all the time, but I don't see a lot. Like, where's the Zeck omnibus? He did a ton of great work.
He did that. He's the one who did that pretty famous Wolverine Captain America cover, right? Was that a Mike Zeck image?
Yes, the one that got reprinted on T-shirts and.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Wolverine's just like sparking up the shield because he's
right. Yeah. I feel like that alone should justify more attention to his whole canon.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more they could do with Zach, and I think he's one. And yes, thank you, Fish. That's you're not wrong.
I can't believe they don't have J.M. DeMatteis, Mike Zeck, Cap omnibus. That makes absolutely no fucking sense.
I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot of money that could be made there. Obviously, Kraven Last Hunt, that he was on that very popular story and everything else. But I mean, he's for that matter, I think you can reach out to Zek and get commissions. I think still, and they're cheaper than other things. And I don't know. There's a good guy to follow on social media. He puts great stuff up. But
no, for sure. But yeah, and that's isn't that the brief period of time that like John Byrne was doing Hulk?
This is his first issue on Hulk.
Yeah. Because he wasn't on it that long.
No, it was relatively quick.
Yeah, and for nothing, Jon Snow, DeMatteis was on Cap for a while, like a few years.
Yeah, like I think close to 2 years. Yeah,
well, probably around like 258-ish to like close to 300. Like it was a beefy run. Yeah.
Well, I hate to bring it, so we're at the end of the covers, but I did want to throw out. We talked about it earlier, but just with review on Norm Macdonald. It's I don't know. This was a shitty week for losing an amazing comic.
Yeah,
I feel like we should have put an OJ joke in here somewhere.
It's a great week for OJ.
There you go.
I remember being I don't know. I was a teenager. I was in high school, and I was staying over at a friend's house and watching Saturday Night Live when he delivered the "Better Than Ezra" joke, and it was so telegraphed. I saw it coming from a mile away, and yet his delivery was so perfect. I laughed my ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
his timing. I mean, he was a great, wonderful storyteller. Obviously, very, very funny. But his timing was just impeccable. Like you watch some of these shows, and he could juggle interruptions and other things, and just weave it right back into his joke. It's just incredible.
Oh yeah, no. This was a very emotional week for O.J. Simpson because he realized he can never get Norm fired again.
We were talking before we went on the air of Norm just basically he did the roast of Clinton to his face. What was not meant to really be a roast. And I mean, it was one of the funniest, uncomfortable, awkward kind of bits at the press correspondence dinner. But anyway, he even took that moment to stop and go like, is he laughing? There's that. I mean, obviously Celebrity Jeopardy. Yes.
So much a Weekend Update. As a kid, I watched, Dirty Work and Screwed. I love those movies. I rewatched them earlier this year. His podcast. We've also talked about, the Moth joke. The Bob Saget roast. He is, to me at least, and I think this is going to end up being the general consensus. He kind of took the baton from Andy Kaufman, and he was like, he's not exactly Andy Kaufman, but it's the same. It's like opposite ends of the same coin kind of thing. Like Andy Kaufman and Norm both were like comedians who understood jokes and how they work so well they were like bored of it, so they were trying to like make it fun for themselves. And yeah, it was just the stuff he would come up with was out of that kind of like, oh, we all know how jokes work, so I'm going to do this. It's just the Conan interview with what's her name? Courtney Thornton Smith or whatever from Melrose Place.
Yeah, she's on promoting her movie with Carrot Top, and he.
Yeah, I bet the board spelled BORED. That was I watched the hell out of that clip, like early YouTube. That was one of those things like, oh my god, you gotta You got to watch that clip. I've showed that to so many people.
It's an amazing.
You know,
the other thing about him though is this was a time where he would roast people and do things, but it's also this. You could do this in comedy, and I think now people are looking back through it with the lens of he said problematic things or whatever, and I was glad we saw very little of that.
Yeah.
After his passing, I was expecting a lot more, but there was more tolerance for people to able to make jokes and do these kinds of things and not get all wound up in outrage. It felt like everybody could, for lack of a better word, take a joke better back then.
Yeah, well, because he was one of those, like, you know, he'd be an outrage comedian when he wanted to be. And then if you wanted him to be an outrage comedian, or he got that directive to be, he'd do something like the Bob Saget roast or the moth joke. So, you know, he really ran the gamut with that. But yeah, this week's it's been awful. There are videos up from, you know, you could go on YouTube, different podcasts from like Bob Saget, Artie Lang, Conan O'Brien, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno. You know, the list goes on of people who are giving you know, tributes, talking, you know, stories about Norm and all that. And you know, definitely check it out. I think Bob Saget's is that one's like half an hour, but he really goes into a lot of details. You know, talks about like the last like conversation he had with him like a week before he passed away via like text and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting.
Bad week.
So, yeah, no, that sucks.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
Eric, I don't know what's going on here with this Superman. Again, this is a bonkers time in comics for sure. But thank you for joining us tonight. I know it's your first time kind of being with us. I hope it felt like there was an onslaught of porno covers that we hit you up with.
It was very interesting. I mean, I do love this, like, you know, post Comics Code neutering of DC Comics that just led to these very weird, like, inappropriate but in a different way than Seduction of the Innocent assumed. But you know, I love it, and it's been a fantastic time. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah. No, it's fun to have fun with comics. It feels like a lot gets over dramatized, especially on Twitter, where people are fighting with each other over everything. And then you look at a panel like this, and Crypto's walking Superboy, and it's like maybe we're taking this all a little too seriously.
Yeah, it also makes you wonder, like, oh, imagine if they did this in like film, and it was like, could you imagine if this was like, you know, you get someone like a Stanley Kubrick directing a scene like that, just fucking terrifying. That'd be great.
I mean, if they would go back to this time period and just adapt the comics in an animated format and just put a season of this stuff out, I mean, it'd be hilarious. The one where Superman kind of tortured Jimmy and Aquaman to death with water in the desert. I mean, just I would watch the hell out of those. But
oh yeah, or I love Silver Age Supergirl. It's like my Supergirl has a robot duplicate in a tree.
Sure.
And wears a big brunette wig over her very long blonde hair.
Well,
and no one notices. No one's like, do you have a gigantic long hair under your tiny brunette wig?
That was a time period where she had a horse that was really into her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no goat. It's no
goat.
Well, his Comet was the super horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, he wasn't ever a human. He was like a centaur who was like cursed to being a regular horse.
Right. But to Eric's point, I mean, at least it wasn't, you know, goat Batman snuff films that the Joker was producing.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Although I do have a sketch somewhere that I got my buddy Sean Von Gorman to draw of Al Gore as the Joker saying, "Why so serial?" So.
Jesus, Joe. Eric, Joe, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Everybody in the chat, thank you for coming and making fun of me. Always appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's always wonderful that you do stuff like that. And I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I guess we'll see you next week, huh?
Yeah, it was an excellent time. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
Sure. Thanks.